Hello, friends. Most of the Indians are aware about this application called COVID. Now, this application is a huge application simply because it has to support 1.3 billion Indians. And in order to take your vaccination shot, you need to book your slot using this app, which is available on web. So you can use your PC to book your slot and also your mobile, because this app is hosted and you can get the appointment with the choice of your vaccination that you want, whether you want to get a paid vaccination or whether you want to go to a free vaccination center. So in order to control the complete end-to-end life cycle of getting vaccination done in India, this is an application where all the citizens will have to go and book their slot depending of what they want to do, what vaccination, which state, which city, etc. So if you look at the back end of this application, is huge because it has to have so many integration done in the back end, from the pharmaceutical company warehouse with the batch number all the way to distribution centers, and then eventually reaching the ultimate vaccination center, and then hooking up or matching the consumer with that batch number. So there is the entire process so that there is no crowd buildup. So there are a lot of advantage of having COVID application, because it will also keep track of who has given you the vaccination, what type of vaccination you've got, and also it has the capability to generate a certificate. This certificate is very important because that will give you access to various government schemes, or even if you're traveling abroad, this certificate will prove that you have been vaccinated. So the end-to-end tracking from production to the consumer is taken care by Coven, and it will also ensure that there are no wastage. Even if there is a wastage in transportation or any other way, the application will know exactly how many buys were produced and how many people were administered, and this will also prevent any black marketeering or any foul play in the ecosystem. So the great news is now this Coven application is going overseas. It is becoming global because it has shown to the world the IT might of India, that they can roll out such a large, humongous application which can support the entire population of India, and also do a lot of integration using advanced technology like blockchain or AI, because I think it is not a simple database integration. It is much more than that. And these 76 countries have shown interest in acquiring this on a license. So the government of India is considering giving free license. So that is the best part, because India is not charging other countries. They are saying that, hey, you can use it, and these licenses are perpetual. That means as long as you use it for benefit of citizens of the world, Indian government will not charge anything from these countries. And these 76 countries will use to roll out similar plans of vaccination in their countries, because COVID or any other pandemic is not, it can be taken care very well by such an application, where large scale rollout of these support services can be done, and it will also keep track of everything from dispatch, from production, dispatch, transportation, administration, and then later subsequently linking with the national data of national IDs, and then also keeping track who actually got, and then consumers will be able to generate their certificates, which are again PDF certificates, very secure, and will be directly linked to their national IDs. So in India, it is linked to Aadhaar system, and in any other country, it will get linked to their national ID system. So there are 76 countries, as I said, are showing interest, and India is going to give them free of cost. Now, the best I have reserved the best information for the end, where there are private parties in India, in the Indian version of the application, want to integrate their payment apps with Coven. Now, why they would like to do that? Now, these parties would like to make sure that the experience of the consumer is absolutely seamless. Even You don't have to pay anything when you arrive at the vaccination center. So private players like Paytm, Reliance Money, and there are other 12 people who have shown interest to integrate their platforms with CoWIN so that consumers can, paying consumers can actually start paying for the vaccination without any hassle and reach the vaccination center, and there is no queue build-up, there is no time wastage for payments, etc. All they have to do, arrive at that time, the slot which has been given, and the vaccination will be administered to them, and after that they just work out. So it is a very high level of automation CoWIN application provides, and I'm very happy to inform you that it is actually going global. Friends, do write in with your comments and suggestion. Anything that you want to add to what I have said, you're most welcome, and I'll respond to each one of you to best of my capability. And I will meet you in the next one.
Hello friends, this is Chandra from Akulmach Technologies. Welcome to Top Brass Skills Gap Discussion Forum. In this forum, we will be discussing the skills gap that we have today in India, and that may becoming a stumbling block to reaching the 5 trillion economy mark. And in this program, we call various leaders to discuss the prevailing issues. And today, I am honored to present to you Mr. Raj Neravati, who is the founder and CEO of a new age company called Hug Innovation. Raj and Hug Innovation are well known in the market among the people and also among the various business fraternity. So without further ado, let me present to you Mr. Raj Neravati.
Hello friends, welcome to Akulmach Live, and I am Chandrakant. Today we want to discuss about something which happened just a few days back. It's about micropayment platform, and it has a global impact because the Indian government has decided something new around the UPI very popular platform called Bheem. And to discuss this, I will be joined by a very distinguished personality from UK. We will analyze this whole aspect from the global perspective. Before I call the guest, I have to tell you that we are live right now and you can actually engage with us. Just use the chat function in your social media, whichever social media you are actually tuned in from, and we will display your name and take your question right away. So let me invite my friend from UK, Mr. Naval Gun. He is the chairman of Mindfit Limited, joining us from UK. Let's welcome him. Good morning, Naval. How are you doing today?
Good morning, CK, and thank you for that drum introduction. Much appreciated. And today we're talking about my favorite subject, money, money, money.
Well, it is your favorite subject. You have dealt with very large corporation finances all your life, so you know exactly how it works. But the news is that there is a unified payment infrastructure in India, very large one, and some says that it is one of the largest micro payment platform because of the population we have here. It's called Bheem, BHIM, and the Indian government has announced linking Bheem platform with a similar platform in Singapore called Pay Now. So you are an Indian and you could be a Singaporean. You can now have the ability to transfer money without the use of credit cards or even giving your bank account details. So this is something big. Otherwise, it used to be a problem because sending any remittances outside the country will attract a lot of regulations and filling different types of form. What is your opinion about this development from the global perspective?
Well, there are several issues to look at here. Firstly, this is obviously geared towards SMEs and people like you and me, the consumers, buying product online. So anything that can make that seamless or more seamless has got to be a good thing. And then we look at privacy of information. So sharing your credit card details with a third party who's several thousand miles away sometimes isn't the smartest thing to do. And people in the past have trusted it. I've trusted it, and I'm sure you've trusted it, because we've looked at the supplier and we think they're a bona fide organization. But today, whether or not they're a bona fide organization, there's unfortunately this thing called the hackers, the cyber thieves, that literally grab hold of your data. So it's privacy of information. And again, this is a great move, as far as I can see, as to keeping that information private to you and a third party that you trust, because there's always going to be a third party when you make a transaction. But effectively, you're paying through a barcode or any type of QR code. So all of your information is on a secure arena, which is literally only going to be shared cryptically behind the scenes, just like a bank-to-bank transfer. Because now we're dealing with banking regulations. Whenever you're talking about this type of arena, we're now talking about banking regulations, not just in India, but also within Singapore. So we're elevating the game, which I think is a really good thing to do to beat the cyber thieves, fundamentally. The other thing is it's a point-to-point transaction. So what it means is on the assumption that you get the goods, and this is a really big assumption that we might have to go into, the money's transferred. And I'm going to make an assumption here, because I don't know, because this is something I've only heard at through you currently, so I haven't done any sort of due diligence or research on it. But just like with PayPal, there's a guarantee. So the funds are guaranteed, and the funds are guaranteed at both sides. So the supplier gets the money that's due to them, but if the goods don't turn up, or they're of substandard, or they're broken, there's some form of guarantee within that service. And certainly that's what's allowed PayPal to increase their market reach over the last few years, because they give that literally unqualified guarantee. So on those three subjects, CK, which one would you like to talk about? The privacy one, or the guarantee, or the fact that we're just making life a lot easier to do trade?
I think I like to dwell upon guarantee and then move on to the ease of use. So in terms of this platform getting connected with Pay Now of Singapore, which is Beam, and Pay Now will be connected. By the way, the start date is July 22. So there's a lot of groundwork that needs to be done before they actually start kicking in their transactions. It's related to micropayment. So it may not be the 100% solution for all payments. I think there are all other payments which requires imports, export of physical goods would go through the normal process. It is only limited to things like micropayment, things like service providers like, for instance, my company, where I don't have to ship anything. I just have to get paid for the services, which is not difficult, or rather engage with somebody in Singapore, or maybe hire an employee and transfer small amount to him without exchange of any goods. I think this is a platform which is very suitable for those kind of transactions. And also, if you're traveling to Singapore or vice versa, it'll be a lot easier to buy things in a shop, or if you're buying a ticket of a museum, or catching a ride, or going on an excursion trip, going to Sentosa Island. So those kind of things will be a lot easier because all you have to do is just scan your QR code and boom, it's done. So you don't have to carry your, you see, when you apply for visa, you need to submit your credit card. So I do not know how will it change those rules of traveling, passport rules, visa rules, etc. But I think it will be lot easier for making a payment and collecting the payment from Singapore to India and India to Singapore. And I think when you talk about guarantee, I think that's the thing that we want to discuss. This is instant transaction from your bank account. So if something fails, the transaction does not happen. So it's not it's slightly different from PayPal, where PayPal collects from you as an intermediary and then make the payment to the business owner on the other side. This is an instant transaction based on your mobile number. So I think the guarantee is built into the system. Your views, Neville, before we move on to the ease of use.
Sure. I mean, the guarantee is a really big thing, because once you have, if I walk down to my local high street and I buy a cup of coffee and I walk away and I don't like that cup of coffee, I could walk back into the high street and I can say, excuse me, this tastes foul, and immediately, good customer service, I'll get a replacement, typically, or I'll get my money back. That's the consumer rights that I have here. But when we start to look at transactions over some distance, even within the same country, I don't have that facility. So once it leaves my bank account, I've therefore authorized that transaction. And what that means is I've done my due diligence around the supplier. So if there isn't a guarantee like PayPal give, then there's no guarantee. So although it makes the transaction secure, it still means that as a consumer, you need to do your due diligence, because as soon as it leaves your account, that's it. You have got no recourse apart from back to the supplier. And again, if that supplier is several thousand miles away, well, you don't quite know if that supplier is real in many respects, because I've been subject to this over the last few years, where you think you're getting something that's too good to be true, and guess what? It usually is too good to be true, and you shouldn't have bought it in the first place. I'm sure you and many thousands, millions of people have been caught down that trap. So buyer beware, I think, is still the phrase we should be using here. So as far as guarantee, from what I'm hearing you say, there really is no guarantee. It's like just having that shop locally and you trust that shop. So buyers need to think about, although the transaction has now been made easier for you, the onus is still on you to make sure that you're happy with that specific supplier. So I see you're nodding away there. So let's move on to the next one. Let's move on to privacy. Let's move on to security, cybersecurity in particular, which is another pet topic of mine, because this is about building resilience in between your ears, fundamentally. Let's look at the cybersecurity part. Just very briefly, what do you think, from the privacy point of view, how this is going to improve?
Well, I think there are two aspects here, ease of use and the risk management. And definitely cybersecurity becomes part of the risk management. That is why I think there is a bit of risk in this, because, for instance, if you don't know how to secure your mobile phone and everything is configured on your mobile device and you lose it in Singapore, then obviously somebody can misuse it. So there is a risk management element and there is a ease of use. There has to be a fine balance between them. That is why I think the platform of UPI is linked or used for usually for micro payments, things like $5, $10 and things like that, up to $100 maximum. Beyond that, I don't think a consumer would like to use this method for making a payment. I mean, obviously you don't want to buy something on a UPI until unless, even in case of Amazon, if you want to pay using UPI, something which is worth $100, $150, you typically choose cash on delivery. So you can still pay using UPI, but until unless it is delivered to your doorstep, then only you swipe the QR code. So I think there are methods, and each consumer has to become more mature how to use different platforms. So I think I'm sure that there are issues here with regard to cybersecurity, but I think there has to be some balance between how much ease of use you need. Because if you want to give 100% ease of use, that means you have to bring down the parameter of security. You have to ease all gates because it is 100% easy to use. So there has to be fine balance, and there are certain things some maturity users need to develop. This is my opinion, Neville. What is yours?
I think maturity is a really good word to use. And let's just look at a little bit of history here. People have got wallets. I've had a wallet ever since I can remember, frankly. And in that wallet at that time, I would have cash. Well, you might want to call it a purse, if you like, or women around the world will call it purse. But fundamentally, it's a wallet. It's where we store previously our cash. And now, over time, when I got a little bit older, I had a bank account and I didn't have a debit card. There wasn't such things. These flexible friends didn't really come in until sort of into the 80s. Yes, I'm old and CK's old too. So we can go back that far. And then eventually you got a debit card. And then that went into your wallet as well. And after a while, you got credit cards. Then you got store cards that would have all of your information on. And in the UK, I remember when the Tesco card came out, everyone rushed to it because it gave you lots of benefits around a Tesco card. It was one of the first discount cards that launched in the UK. And we're now coming full circle with this approach, because now all I'm going to carry around is a QR code. That's it, really. So I won't need a wallet anymore. I'm just going to have one QR. Well, maybe not. I mean, I'll probably have a dozen QR codes. And then I have to remember which one applies to which arena, which bank account, et cetera, et cetera. So we're going to have to be mature in this arena and grow up with it, because ultimately I can see there being a proliferation if we're not careful. When PayPal was first announced in the UK, it was rocket science. It was mind-blowing. Oh, I can just log into PayPal and pay anything to anybody that's on PayPal. And it took a little while for that to get traction. But now, frankly, if you look at any website in the UK, there's always a PayPal option. And that's guaranteed, again, through the credit card opportunity. So we need to look at the financial regulations around these arenas. And I'm not surprised, although that this has recently been announced, it's not until July 2022 that it will go live, because there's lots of things that need to be ironed out in between now and then. But what it does do is it gives us an insight into what's happening in the fintech world. So it might be a phrase you've not heard of. If you've not heard of it, type in #fintech and you'll be inundated with stuff that's flying around in that particular part of the world. But I think it's a great move. I think there's a lot to be done. They've got over 10 months of lots of preparation work to do before it's launched. My guess is they'll delay the launch because there's far too much to be done in 10 months between two fiscal systems and two banking systems, et cetera, et cetera. But it's a fantastic move in the right direction. And here's to only carrying around barcodes in the future. Won't need a wallet.
Yes, Neville, I think this is quite exciting because so far, as per the Indian foreign exchange regulation, you can receive the money from abroad, but you cannot pay the money to a vendor which you have engaged with. So you can make the payment, but then you need you need to fill out multiple forms. It takes about 10 days to get the approval and all that. And plus there is taxation. So how the taxation part will be affected by this between India and Singapore. Time will tell, but I think it's a very good thing, and probably UK must also open up with India and both countries, because there is a lot of business waiting to happen between UK and India. Indians have the capacity to engage with UK based merchants. So far, the problem is making the payment, because you lose out a lot of in the taxation and withholding. So I think with this micropayment platform, especially the lower segment payment up to $100 or like £80, should be a breezer, I think. So I think I'm hoping that I think the next news that we will hear is integrating Beam with the UK micropayment platform.
I think it's a great suggestion, CK, and hopefully if someone's listening, they'll be moving down that route. I'll have words with my friends in the Bank of England and see if they're actually considering it. I'm sure they are. And the FCA will be fully on top of everything that's going on. But like anything else, we're entering the world of banking now, and we do know how difficult it is within that fintech banking arena. They're slow to move. They're not really focused on customer service or customer experience, but this is something that actually people are going to be calling for. So watch out, you bankers out there. Get on the case, join this particular project, have a good look at it, see what it's like, because I think this is going to be one for the future. And as I say, hopefully I won't have to have a barcode for every country I'm dealing with. But we live in hope. Fascinating subject today, CK. Thanks very much for inviting me, and good luck, everybody. Read up on it. It's the way of the world. So get in tune.
Thank you so much for finding time, Naval, and joining us on this very interesting subject and futuristic development. But we will catch you next time on something even more interesting. Until then, bye-bye.
Hello friends, this is Chandra from Akulmach Technologies. Welcome to Top Brass. Today we are joined by Vikas Bansal, who has 2 decades of corporate experience. He's worked with many brands across India, and now he's helping a lot of entrepreneurs, startups, and budding professionals in their journey. He is actually playing a role of mentor and coach, and we are very happy to have him here to discuss about lockdown. Welcome to the show, Vikas.
Yeah, thank you, Chandra. You share your name with a very famous personality, right? So,
Well, I think there are many. Which one you're talking about?
no, I'm talking about the boss of TCS as of now,
Oh, okay.
or the Tatas. I wouldn't say TCS here because we remember him as the boss of TCS, but now the boss of Tatas, right? Chandra.
When I was in school, there was a notorious character also with the same name.
Okay. Wonderful.
So Vikas, I'm very happy to talk to you today, and we are on day 12. We've already crossed
Yes.
2 weeks,
Yes.
2 weeks, and we have few more days to go. So, what is your experience so far? Would you like to share? Because I think you're joining us from Delhi or Gurgaon.
Gurgaon.
How do you see this lockdown affecting you in particular and your neighborhood?
See, I would say everything has a silver lining. Though when I first heard the news of a lockdown, it seemed as if the world had collapsed. So I am not the one who likes to sit in my home per se. And over the last 2 decades, though I've had a mix of roles. I mean, right from sales and distribution to let's say having a small role in finance to strategy and planning, analytics. So I've been on the field and I've been in the office, but I feel more comfortable in moving out and talking to people, conversing with people. So the first news of this lockdown, when Prime Minister spoke of this initiative, first obviously you had to reconcile with the fact that this is something which has happened. As a human being, many times we fail to reconcile to the reality. So I believe it took me about a day or two to realize that this has actually happened, and this is something beyond me. I really have to live with it for the next 3 weeks at least. So that's the first reaction which I had to overcome. My first resistance, my own resistance, which I had to overcome in the first 1 or 2 days. That something actually happened, and I need to abide by that as a law-abiding citizen. So, so I believe the first 2 or 3 days was still pretty good. It was like an extended weekend. So you come back from work and you suddenly are announced an extended weekend. So first 2 or 3 days, you kind of end up consuming a lot of food. You end up watching a lot of TV, reading a lot of newspaper. So first 2 or 3 days were pretty fine, kind of an extended holiday. But then again, the reality starts biting you. You can't be doing that every single day. So I believe by the end of the third day, I realized there has to be a proper regime. I still had about 18, 19 days to go. So that's when one sits down and realizes that there's more to life, what can be done. I mean, I'm confined to my home, but that's a great learning opportunity as well. So I believe the paradigm shift happened, Chandra, somewhere on the third day, when I realized I had this time to myself. Though obviously, I mean, me, my wife, my parents, my kids, I'm sure my wife takes care of but we're all chipping in. So I believe when we sat down and thought about what could be done, what could the kids do, what I could do. So I believe the third day was the day which really changed my life. And it's been a great journey after that. I mean, I have really, if I could use the word, I have really enjoyed this time. Enjoyed as a period of self-development, enjoyed as a period of really getting back to a lot of my friends and acquaintances, a lot of those people who I could not reach out to, not because I never wanted to, but many of these people were really keeping busy all this while. So as of now, I have this period wherein, so if I call you up, Chandra, I'm very sure if you're not in a Zoom call, which most people are as on date, they're actually happily waiting for somebody's call. So you're free to call them up. So, I mean, it's been a really good time, I would say, since the third day. So last about 8, 9 days has been really good, really productive for me. That's what my thing is.
So so what I'm getting is a lot of positive vibes while talking to you. But one thing which I get after you spoke is that I think things are going to change forever. The way we do business and how do we talk to people. So do you have any observation on how things will pan out once the lockdown is lifted?
Yeah, I believe, and I had an interesting. So I posted a video on similar lines this very Tuesday. I mean, about 5 days back, and I actually spoke about the scenarios which would unfurl once this lockdown is lifted. First, I'm a firm believer that whatever changes are happening in our environment that we see, some of these changes will definitely become permanent. Not that we were not conversant with technology, right? I believe some of us are fortunate to have an access to this technology that we're using right now. So we were pretty conversant with this all these years. I mean, we've had all these Skype calls and WhatsApp video calls. So, but many of these changes will now start becoming permanent as a routine feature in our daily lives. So, and I also spoke about something in my video where not that, so once the normalcy returns, which it will, let's say a couple of days or a couple of weeks down the line, we will still start frequenting malls. We will get back to our sports events, get back to movies. I'm a big fan of movies, right? We'll get back to all those activities. But I believe the frequency just might reduce. So if I was a person who used to watch 12 movies in a year, I'm talking about going to a theater and watching a movie, right? If I was to go every single month, I don't know. As of now, I feel I just might cut it down to about 6 movies a year. I don't know. I mean, that's what my feeling is now. So some of these outings just might reduce, is what my feeling is. And then technology. So I use the word where technology, I would say, will no longer be an enabler. As of now, we always see technology as an enabler in whatever work we're doing, in trying to increase. So technology helps us to increase our efficiency, is what we look at. I believe now technology will be an integral part of our lives, not just an efficiency tool. So these are some of the things which I see happening even after the lockdown ends. Now, for some of us who have kids, I mean, believe me, their life is really going to change. They're all getting pretty used to this technology stuff. I really, though I'm not a very firm believer in kids going through Zoom classes, right, and schools engaging with them over technology. But it again hardly matters whether I'm a believer or not. This is here to stay. I mean, most of the schools that I know of in Delhi NCR, I don't know about the other areas, but most of the schools in this area have really geared up, and this could be a boon for students because you have all kinds of breaks up in North India. If you're conversant with, you have sometimes an extended summer break because of the adverse weather. Then you have now a new pollution break. For many of our audiences who are living in the other part of the country, they wouldn't understand what this pollution break is. But we have this annual, a few days of pollution break. Then we have an extended winter break again because of adverse winter conditions. Technology will really come to our rescue now. So I believe some of these things which we're getting used to are really going to be a permanent feature. That's what my belief is.
So I think you raised very pertinent questions. I think there is an immediate opportunity for uh, homeschooling kind of an application where students can study as they were doing normally in the school. Similarly, there could be an opportunity for innovation with regard to the office-based solutions. In fact, if I want to share some experience of my own company, because we work in the startup and the SME arena, and we are sort of 80% online even before the lockdown. So it took us
Okay.
hardly one day to transition everybody on virtual office. So,
One.
so that's let me share my experience. What is happening is, I see all these people working from home because everybody is working because we don't want to, being a small company, we don't want to let go the revenue. So now, as a team leader or as a leader of the company, I am exposed to the personal life of the people because not everybody is fortunate to have a home office kind of a scenario. So they are
Sure.
converting bedrooms and whatever area, convenient area. So I am not only exposed to their work, which I was earlier doing, I'm also getting exposed to their personal life. So I think as a leader, I have to be within quotes. I have to be uh, adjusting enough to get exposed to that. And then there are requests coming that, hey, I will work for 8 hours for the company, but I work 4 hours because the young parents don't have any avenue to leave their toddlers out. So they will work
Right.
4 hours in the morning, then they'll take a break because their wife they have to look after their children, and then they'll work another 4 hours. So a lot of these permutation combinations are now, at least as a leader, I'm getting exposed to. I'm sure a lot of people, other people who are in a different scenario, who work in a different kind of industry, or who work in a different segment, there may be a lot of inputs coming in from this experience.
Absolutely. And as you mentioned about you having a sneak peek into your associate's lives per se, you mentioned about that. So in fact, I read a very interesting article written by Nikhil, one of my friends. He posted it on LinkedIn a couple of days back, wherein he used the terminology of not working from home, but working at home. And I also kind of narrated the same in my video, which I posted. It's a different scenario. I mean, as you rightly pointed out, some of us who are fortunate to have a separate space, we've converted so I have converted altogether a room in my house. So I have slightly a bigger house. So I have converted an entire room to my office. But for people who didn't have spaces, I mean, I know of my friends who've really literally converted one of their bedrooms, right, to an office. So kind of no longer working from home, but working at home. You need an office at home now. So again, a paradigm shift. Yes. So incidentally, what you just mentioned.
Right. So I think it is very enlightening to talk to you and get this perspective. What is your advice to some of the viewers of this particular show? Because I think the lockdown is not going to stop at 21 days. Presumption is it will continue for some more time, or it will be released in phased manner.
In phased manner, yes.
Because pandemic is upon us, it's not going to disappear just like that.
Absolutely.
What do you think we should do as humanity, and so that we are streamlined in the positive direction?
See, I would say this is again. So the current situation is like we are at war with someone, right? So we definitely will have to be confined, as you rightly pointed out. Even if the lockdown ends, it'll end in. So we'll have a phased end to the lockdown. It'll not be a 0 and 1. It'll not be a digital kind of an end to a lockdown. So again, I would say, what can we do to improve our value per se? So that's what my only message is to anybody who's watching this video. See, again, this is the reality. Come to terms with the reality. That reality might last another 9 days, might last another 12 days, 15 days. We're still not sure about how many days we're still going to be in this phase. So what can be done? So I would say, first of all, take out some time and enjoy. You know what happened, Chandra? So when this lockdown started, everybody was kind of enjoying for the first 2-3 days. But now I've been calling up a lot of my friends who still happen to be in corporate jobs. Thankfully, I'm out of a job now. I run my own venture like you do. So people who are still in jobs, I don't know if you've experienced this. Since last week, they extremely got busy. Everybody's kind of on a call since morning till about late in the evening on a video call. I don't know how productive is that. So are you literally getting consumed in too much of work? You're not being too productive. So take some time out for enjoyment is what my message is, first of all. It's a golden opportunity spending some time with your family. Are you dedicating some time? Now, I have two kind of grown-up kids. I wouldn't say exactly grown-up, but yeah, in high school kids. I'm possibly making a point to spend some time with them even in front of the TV. I mean, we have two epic serials being shown. I mean, am I doing something? Can I do something to inculcate some good values in them? Possibly I can make them sit in front of the serial, in front of the TV when you have the Ramayana and Mahabharata being telecast. So as parents, do we have some responsibility towards our kids, except for asking them to attend their maths and the science classes? So I mean, this is the time to really do things which you've not done. Can you pick up a small book which you always thought about reading? You will definitely have an access to that book online. Can you actually watch a movie which you always wanted to? Can you actually do something which you always wanted to, but you're still confined? And you can do which you can manage within the confines of your house. So, I mean, this is the time which will pass. But what is the value add that you do within yourself, within your family, or even within your peer group? And again, I spoke about something in my video. Can you actually call up some friends? As I told you, I've been calling up 3 to 5 friends every day. I mean, I'm not saying message them. Can I talk to them? Everybody is available right now. Can you talk to 3 or 4, 5 friends? Can you talk to somebody who you spoke for 2 years back? I mean, there's a lot to do. And believe me that these new connections which you're establishing today will help you, will come to your leverage in the long run. So I mean, I'm saying do something to keep yourself engaged, and there are enough and enough things. Just summarize, do something for enjoyment, do something with the kids, call up your friends, and obviously carry on with your routine work. So there's a lot to be done.
There's a lot to be done. It's a great pleasure talking to you, Vikas, today. I'm sure we will find another opportunity very soon to talk to you once again. We got few more days. I think the lockdown is continuing, and before the lockdown ends, we will talk once again.
Thank you.
And be positive, be safe.
Thank you. Thanks, Chandra.
Bye-bye for today.
Hello friends, this is Akulmach Live and I am Chandrakant. Last week we had a very important guest on our show, Mr. Mike Bradley, and he told us about 5 C's of doing business. Today he is also joining us back again on the series of program that we are doing with Mike, which is how to have a pragmatic approach towards partnership, especially now the subject is very relevant. So folks, don't go anywhere. I will be taking a short break and will join back along with my guest in a moment. Welcome back, friends, and I'm very pleased to invite our guest today, Mr. Mike Bradley, who joins us from UK, and we will continue our discussion from last week, which was around pragmatic approach towards partnership. Mike, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Chandra. Good to speak to you again. And how are you surviving the monsoon rains?
Well, it is fine now. It was pretty bad last week, but it has mellowed down a bit. I think business as usual now. Although clouds are there, it's raining continuously, but it's not so hard.
Oh, that's good news. That's always better. Better than the other option.
Well, we discussed the 5 C's last week, and today our viewers would like to know 4 P's of a pragmatic approach. So we are waiting to hear from you. What are the pillars of having the best partnership approach when we go out and do business?
Okay. So last week we talked about the 5 C's for how you identify the correct partners to work with, be they joint ventures, resellers, agents, etc. We said it had to be complementary, cultural fit, communication had to be right, contacts are right, clients are right, and the 6th in brackets C was charm. It's always good to sort of build on the relationship side of working together. So this week I thought what would be better is, having identified those partners, we then have to work with them in a practical way that is effective. And I believe to do that efficiently, you need to have a structured approach to how you present and propose your solutions, because otherwise everything that you do, you'll be reinventing the wheel, which is inefficient and ultimately becomes ineffective. Because what you also have to do is you have to go through the process either as a vendor, you have to actually put the pitch together and present the pitch for the client, or you have to enable them to put their label on it, their branding, and send that out to their customer. But it needs to have your message and your solution properly identified. Because whether we like it or not, when partners have got a lot of products to sell, they are not going to be able to present your product in the way that you can present it. So it's important you give them the tools and the information in a way that they can actually do that for you, and eventually become, through a trainer approach, they can do it themselves. So it's very much a stepped process, I think. The 4 P's then are, first one, pedigree. So it's very important that we start with having a start in any presentation or proposal saying why we are good at what we do. What's our track record? How have we come to be where we are? A bit of background, why you can trust us as a vendor. So the pedigree is very important, the experience and the credibility that puts the vendor in a good, strong position to supply the customer. The second one is portfolio. So in other words, what is your product? Why is it important? And how is it going to help and benefit the client? So how does it help and benefit the partner, and also onwards to the end user who's going to be signing up with the vendor? So portfolio, of course, is very important. Third P is plan of action. And here I think it's very important that you have two crucial elements. Particularly within SaaS products, but in fact for any product, the use, tell, sell, tell, use approach, which basically means if you're trying to sell to an end user a vendor product, that end user, if they've got any common sense, is going to say, well, do you use the product yourself? And if the answer to that question is no, then it doesn't actually reinforce much confidence that actually, well, this is the product I need to buy then. So the first thing you must do in that plan of action is make sure that you and your partners are using your own product, because otherwise it lacks credibility. But once you're using it, of course, your client is going to, or then your salespeople, your partner is going to be able to tell people about it because they've got first-hand experience and knowledge of it. So when somebody is telling someone that this is how we used it, this is what we gained from it, this is the benefits, this is how we get our return on it, then I think you've got a very credible story. So there's the use, the tell, and of course, when they've understood how beneficial it is, then they're going to say to you, how much does it cost me to buy it? And you sell the product. Now, if you've got an online service model, the next point is they bought the product. Now you've got to tell them how to optimize and use the product, because that will in turn reduce the amount of churn and ensure the maximum retention and return to the end user. So use, tell, sell, tell, use is a vital part of the plan of action. The other part of the plan of action is, of course, the 4 Ps, the traditional 4 Ps of marketing. What is the product for this particular solution for this client? How is it going to be put into how is it going to be placed into their environment? What is the pricing? And how are they going to internally promote the use of it across their user base, across their partner? So the 4 Ps within the context of partnership is very important. And then finally, so we've got pedigree, we've got portfolio, we've got plan of action, which is tailored to the prospect. And finally, we've got provisioning. Because once we've got the order, we then have to ensure that all the other I's are dotted and T's are crossed. What's the service level agreement? What's the customer support arrangement? What's the provisioning mechanism? How's the rollout due to happen? What's the operational play for invoicing and payment? All of those elements need to be in the pitch and the proposal, whether it be to the partner or to their end user. Without all of those elements in place, there's going to come a point where either a deal is not going to be able to be closed, or the deal is going to be closed and not going to be able to be delivered, or worst of all, there's going to be gross disappointment in the partner and the end user because it isn't going to work properly. So those are the 4 Ps.
Excellent explanation, Mike. I think these are very, very vital for any business. I think you put it very nicely. But I also feel that people needs to do a little bit training around this, because many people, even though they may know about it, they might have studied in their school, but they don't know how to implement in real life scenario. So I think there is a need for some sort of training provided to entrepreneurs today. Do you have a suggestion for how people can get trained on these 4 Ps?
Well, yes, I do. In fact, I put together a program along the lines of this several years ago for the Growth Accelerator program that the UK government had for how to help companies grow. So I have the material ready and can very easily put together an online training session, which would be charged at a per head basis, or could be done on an exclusive company basis. And we would go into more detail around these areas and come up with actions and actual activities that will enable the attendee to go away with a sensible plan of action to move forward and optimize their partnering. So yes, thank you for that question. And of course, I would be remiss for saying, we can make that available on the Scale Up Arena learning and training page so that people can actually optimize this, sign up for it, and then optimize their joint venturing and partnering activities.
Actually, in terms of training, there are a lot of traction going on right now, because what used to work 2 years back is not working anymore. So people might have got experience of 20 years or 30 years of networking, but those networks cannot be leveraged at this point in time. So that is why Skillshare and even the LinkedIn training is putting a lot of efforts in building up a portfolio of different training. And that is why I asked, because I think when we talk about these 4 Ps, there are a lot of these training material, but then it is coming from pre-recorded content. So
very important to have an interactive session.
Okay, so you can provide the interactive session on one-on-one basis, on need basis. How does it work in your case?
I would provide, what I think would be best is to provide a free 1-hour briefing session, which would outline the whole process, give a few hints and tips, go through these 5 Cs and 4 Ps and all the rest of it, 4 pillars. But then I would suggest, if you want to optimize it for your company, that you need to take the fuller, specific course that could be provided online. But I'm quite prepared to say that we will do a 1-hour session for your Akulmach viewers. If they want to do that, they can actually come back to yourselves and say, we'd like to take part in the, what do we call it? The pragmatic approach to partnering webinar.
Excellent. We will try and see if people are interested. I think this is a very important subject because many people don't know the reality. They don't know how to, sometimes you have a flair of acquiring customers, but you don't have a flair of retaining it. So I think it should be provided to the new generation entrepreneurs who are now entering the fray. And that is why such trainings are very, very important, Mike.
Yep, I agree. I can, what I can do is provide you with a link with the overview of the course that you could use yourself and push it out as a webinar, a free of charge webinar, but then there'll be a more detailed half day, which will be chargeable.
Excellent, Mike. I think thank you so much for coming over and enlightening our viewers about these hidden aspects of doing business. It's very, very important. And viewers, I think you have any question, any suggestion, you can directly reach out to Mike, or you can reach out to us, and we will make the connection happen. The email will be mentioned at the end of the video, also in the description down below. Mike, coming over and joining us, talking to our viewers today.
No problem. Been a pleasure. That was part 2. And of course, I've got part 3 ready for next week.
We'll be coming with part 3 next week. So viewers, stick around. Next Thursday, we'll be back with Mike.
Superb. Thank you very much, Chandra. Great to chat to you.
Hello friends, welcome to Akulmach Live, and I'm Chandrakant. In today legal matter, we are actually going to discuss about the history of High Court and what is its jurisdiction. So, many people keep hearing about these news that High Court has given this order and Supreme Court has given this order, but seldom people know about the difference between High Court and Supreme Court. To discuss this matter, I will be joined by my friend from Ahmedabad, Mr. Jeet Bhatt, and he will tell us the differences between High Court, Supreme Court, and also the brief history of the High Court. So without further ado, let's welcome Jeet.
Hello, Chandrakant. Hi, thank you for having me on Legal Matters. And yes, today we are going to discuss about this important topic of how the high courts came into existence in India and what are its jurisdictions. So, a brief history before I start on the jurisdiction on how the high courts came to be established is obviously, as everybody must be aware, it is a colonial setup and came to be introduced when the Britishers were here. And the first three chartered high courts in the country were Calcutta, Madras, and Bombay. And people in Bombay, Calcutta, and Madras must be knowing that these high courts are almost 150 years, almost 150 years old. But there's a brief history before the high courts came to be set up on how Bombay, which in the early 17th century was part of the Goan colony, and the Goan colony gifted the island of Bombay to the Britishers on the marriage of King Charles II with the Catherine of Braganza. So it is because of this marriage between the King of England and the Princess of Portugal that the island of Bombay came to be gifted to the British crown in the year 1661. It is after that by way of a charter in 1969 that King Charles transferred the island of Bombay to the East India Company, because by that time East India Company had already established its business in India. So the administration of justice in the island of Bombay was started by the East India Company under the authority of the Crown of England. In 1694, at the same time, similar time, the East India Company also became the Zamindar in Bengal due to the purchase of villages with the consent of Nawab of Bengal. And the East India Company also established a settlement in Madras by that time. So by 1694, they had already occupied the territories of Bombay, Calcutta, and Madras. And therefore, they established the courts of records in the year 1694 itself. By 1694, since the East India Company was already administrating justice in these regions, they established courts of records by 1726, and which are later on known as the Supreme Courts of Bombay, Calcutta, and Madras. So earlier, it were known as the Supreme Courts and not the High Courts. But later on, with the advent of 19th century, when the British Crown took over the entire territories in India and established the colony, the Government of India Act came to be passed by the British Parliament in the year 1858. And this, by way of this Government of India Act, the Indian High Courts Act came to be established, passed by the British Parliament, which authorized the creation of high courts in several presidencies and instead of the Supreme Court. So therefore, in 1862, the first High Court in India came to be set up in Calcutta, known as the High Court of Calcutta, and that is the first High Court in the country. Then 1865, the High Court of Bombay and Madras were set up. So they are more than almost 145 to 150-year-old High Court, the oldest High Courts in the country. And later on, the British Empire established the entire legal system in India based on their own system. So at that time, high courts were having the writ jurisdictions, and which writs were being issued by the kings in the olden times in the British Empire. And later on, when the high courts were established, those rights were given to the judges in the high courts as well. So basically, high court judges exercise the powers that the king has of issuance of writs. And even today, under the Indian Constitution, we have adopted a similar setup in the sense that the high courts are having the jurisdiction and the power to issue writs for the enforcement of the rights of the citizens. And there are basically 5 writs which are issued, and the jurisdiction of the High Court is given under Article 226 of the Constitution, and the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court for issuance of writs is under Article 32 of the Constitution of India. Both these articles are extremely important, because if any fundamental or constitutional right of any citizen is abridged by the state, or the state machinery or its instrumentality or its agencies, then the persons aggrieved, the citizens, do have a right to approach the High Court as well as the Supreme Court for enforcement of their rights under the Constitution. And this is a very important piece of provision, empowering the High Courts for in issuance of writs for the enforcement of the rights of the citizens. Now, you and your viewers would obviously be aware that the Constitution for the first time gave the fundamental rights to the citizens of this country, which this country never had before. And by the fundamental rights that we have under the Constitution, the right of equality, the right not to be discriminated, the right to be treated equally, the right to trade and profession, right to carry on business activities, the right to travel to any part of India, to right to reside in any part of India, the right to life with dignity, etc. So right against protection against arrest, etc. There are several fundamental rights from Article 13 onwards. And the enforcement of these fundamental rights, the most important provision is Article 32, which directly gives the Supreme Court the power to enforce these rights. Though in the earlier days, there are judgments when the Supreme Court was set up in 1950, where the Supreme Court says that we will watch the actions of the government because we are the custodians of the fundamental right. We will protect these rights come what may. And these were the words of the Supreme Court initially, but then later on with so much of litigation, so much of cases pending, now the Supreme Court is of the opinion that the High Courts also have a similar power of issuance of writs, which we also have. Rather, High Courts have a wider power in the sense that High Courts can be approached for the enforcement of any of the constitutional rights. So if there's violation of any of the provisions of the Constitution, the High Court of that state will have the power for issuance of writs for the enforcement of rights, whereas the Supreme Court will have the right for enforcement of only fundamental rights. So this is the basic difference between the powers of High Court and Supreme Court, where High Court's power is much wider than Supreme Court in terms of enforcement of rights under the Constitution. Obviously, the Supreme Court being the last authority, the final arbiter of disputes, it will have a word of finality, and obviously its powers are not limited. It can exercise any power, and on the contrary, it can even mold the law in order to give relief if it thinks that it meets the ends of justice. But if you read the Constitution, Article 226 provides for a much wider power to the High Courts than Article 32, which provides same power to the Supreme Court. So that is the setup which has been followed from the earlier colonial system to the present constitutional system under our Constitution. But next, I would like to talk about the 5 writs that can be issued by the High Courts and the Supreme Court. And those 5 writs which can be issued are the writs of habeas corpus, the writs of mandamus, the writ of prohibition, the writ of quo warranto, and writ of certiorari. So these 5 writs can be issued. Now I'll just speak briefly on what these 5 writs are. It's a very wide topic, and every writ can cover at least an hour or so if it wants to be discussed in detail. But a habeas corpus writ is again and these 5 writs are again very, very old established writ powers which the kings in the British times had. So writ of habeas corpus is for the production of the body. So habeas corpus literally is a Latin word, which means have the body. So if any person has been illegally detained by any authority, which does not have the power to detain him and his custody is illegal, then the aggrieved person or a family member of the person who has been captured illegally can approach the High Court for issuance of a writ of habeas corpus. And if the High Court issues the writ of habeas corpus on finding that the person has been illegally detained, then the authority, the state machinery, will have to find that person from any part of the country and will have to produce it before the court in order to find out whether the person has been illegally detained or not. So that is the power of writ of habeas corpus. It's a very important writ, and a lot of lives have been saved by issuance of this writ of habeas corpus by different High Courts as well as the Supreme Court. So basically, it pertains to right to life and live with dignity and without any restrictions. So if any person has been illegally detained, his family can approach the High Court for issuance of a writ of habeas corpus. The second writ is a writ of mandamus. Uh, yes, a writ of mandamus, which is basically a command. So the High Court has the power to command the state in order to ensure that if the state has a duty which is not fulfilling, then the High Court can issue a writ of mandamus directing it by way of a command to comply with its duty. And also if it is in violation of any rights of any citizen, so the High Court can issue a writ of mandamus against the state. Now, kindly also bear in mind that these writs can be issued against the state, its authority, and its instrumentality, but not against private persons and private entities. So, for that disputes, there are civil courts. But with respect to disputes which are in the realm of public law, then High Courts have the jurisdiction under Article 226. The third writ is the writ of prohibition, which is preventing a state or its instrumentality from acting or undertaking or doing something which is not in consonance with the Constitution or with the laws. The fourth writ is the writ of quo warranto. This writ of quo warranto is basically control over the appointments on public posts of ineligible persons which are not having the requisite qualification as prescribed under the rules. So, for example, if a vice chancellor of any university or if any person holding any public post under the state, he does not have the eligibility to hold that post and has been appointed still by the state, then the High Court can issue a writ of quo warranto that your appointment is illegal. So this is the writ of quo warranto, which the High Courts have control over public posts and the appointments which are made by the state government. And the fifth is the writ of certiorari, where the High Court has the power of supervision over the lower courts and tribunals under the state. So if any order passed by the tribunals or any of the trial courts, then the High Court has power of supervision and it can correct those powers if they have been passed without jurisdiction or there is manifest error in those orders. So basically, dividing the powers of the High Court, they can be prescribed as either original or appellate. So under original powers of the High Court, there are these writ jurisdiction like writ of habeas corpus, mandamus, prohibition, quo warranto. Whereas the writ of certiorari is basically sometimes an appellate jurisdiction which the High Court is exercising, where the orders of the trial court, different tribunals are challenged before the High Court. And the High Court, by way of its supervisory power, is exercising control over these tribunals. So basically, this is how the powers of and jurisdiction of the courts are distributed by way of these 5 writs, and it has vast powers to do complete justice towards the citizens of this country. Also, this power has been expanded by High Courts and Supreme Courts by entertaining public interest litigations, where a lot of vigilant individuals file these public interest litigations for larger issues with regards to health, water, sanitation, laborers, etc. A lot of public interest litigations for human rights, etc. have been filed, and the High Courts have exercised its jurisdiction and issued landmark judgments on the protection of a lot of areas regarding this public interest litigation. So yes, so this is how the jurisdiction of the High Courts, the powers are being exercised.
This is great, Jeet. In fact, a lot of people don't know about High Courts and Supreme Court, what kind of job they do, what type of cases they have. So I think it's a very important, description that you have given for the viewers. And by the way, viewers, we are live. If you have any question, you can shoot it out. We will display your question straight away on the screen and get it answered. So Jeet, I have one question, and I think a lot of people may be aware the differences, but I think there are not too many in India. So if you can tell the viewers when they can approach High Court, although you have explained technically into 5 types of writs, but can you explain in a layman's language what is the right timing for individual to approach High Court? Otherwise, they will have to stick around in the lower court. So I think you can take it up from there.
Yes, certainly, Chandrakant. So basically, there are two types of disputes. One is private, and the other is a public dispute, having a public law element. If it's a private dispute between two private entities, where the state is not involved, then the jurisdiction would lie before the civil courts, trial courts, or special tribunals which have been enacted. Like, say, for example, if it's between a bank and a borrower, then there are separate tribunals like the Debt Recovery Tribunal, which has been specially enacted. Otherwise, if it's a MSME, then there's a MSME council which adjudicates disputes on payment, etc. Also, with regards to insolvency, bankruptcy, there is NCLT, there is the National Company Law Tribunal, and other private disputes with regards to land, etc. There are civil courts. Also, there are special secretary revenue and revenue tribunals, etc. But depending on the nature of disputes, the area of jurisdiction of which court can be decided. But with regards to High Court and its power, if the state or its instrumentality acts in a manner which violates any of the fundamental or any constitutional right. So say, for example, if the state machinery is encroaching upon a private land of a private individual, though there is a civil dispute, but that violation would also be a violation of a constitutional right, in the sense that right to property is still recognized as a constitutional right under Article 300A. So that person can approach the High Court for enforcement of his constitutional right. Similarly, as I said, if the police machinery has taken over your family member and illegally detained him without any charge or without any FIR, then of course you can take the remedy of habeas corpus and file a writ before the High Court, and the High Court can call upon the state machinery, its police, to produce the corpus and ask him ask why he has been detained. Also, a lot of times what happens is that even private individuals kidnap small kids, and the parents of the kids can also approach the High Court seeking the writ of habeas corpus if the police is not undertaking the search as it should in a vigilant manner. So then they can also approach the High Court, and they have approached in many cases past, where High Courts have issued the writ of habeas corpus for producing the body. Similarly, writ of mandamus can be issued for a variety of reasons, where the state machinery, say for example, in any recruitment for the public post, has violated any of the rules, or even in service, in terms of service conditions, they have not complied, or in promotion, or any other aspect where the state and its instrumentality has to act in a manner prescribed under the rules, and there is a violation of those rules which has resulted into some harm to the employees, then the employees can also prefer a petition before the High Court. And similarly, certiorari, as I said, is an appellate power, supervisory power, where if any order which has been passed by the trial court or by any tribunal which is not in consonance with law, then that can be approached before the High Court for adjudication. So these are the manners in which the persons can approach before the High Court. Also, if there's a remedy, say for example, if a police has registered an FIR on an absolutely false and frivolous allegations leveled by the informant, and if it's an abuse of the process of law, then the High Court, under exercise of its writ jurisdiction, read with the Code of Criminal Procedure, can quash the FIR against the accused person if the accused person approaches the High Court. So there are a lot of ways in which you can approach the High Court depending on what right has been violated.
Thank you so much, Jeet, and in fact for explaining this. But I have one last question, which is about the subtle differences between the powers of Supreme Court and High Court. And is there a High Court in every state, or there are certain states which do not have High Court and they have to approach Supreme Court? So what is the difference, and how many High Courts we have in India?
Yes, Chandrakant, mostly every state has a High Court, except 2 or 3 states which share their High Courts. It's not that they don't have an High Court. In the 7 sisters, that is Northeast, probably a couple of states share one High Court. Also, Punjab and Haryana, though there are 2 separate states, but Chandigarh being the union territory, shares a common High Court of Punjab and Haryana. So 2 states having one High Court. Also, there are some other states where 2 or 3 states are sharing one High Court, but there are only 2 or 3 such states which are sharing. Otherwise, every state has a High Court. And union territories also, they don't have a high court, but their jurisdiction lies before the high court. So say for example, like Daman and Diu, their jurisdiction is with Bombay High Court. And Goa, though now it's a state, so they have a bench of Maharashtra High Court in Goa. So therefore, they also now have a bench which sits there. So difference between High Court and Supreme Court, I would say, is basically the power under Article 226 and 32, though are same for issuance of writ, but the power of High Court is much wide in the sense that the High Court can be approached for adjudication of a dispute which is in terms of violation of any of the constitutional right, whereas the Supreme Court can be approached only in terms of violation of fundamental rights. So the power of Supreme Court in that sense is little restricted. Not it is restricted in any other sense in terms of granting relief, but only in terms of violation of what provision, which decides of what jurisdiction the Supreme Court has. Also, a difference is that against the orders of the High Court, the appeal can be preferred before the Supreme Court. So therefore, Supreme Court in that way is the last forum for adjudication in our hierarchical system. Otherwise, powers of writs are same.
Well, Jeet, it was a pleasure talking to you and learning so many things about our judicial system today. Thank you so much for coming over to our show and talking to our viewers, explaining this. It was a pleasure.
And thank you, Chandrakant, for having me. It's my pleasure and honor to be on this legal matters. Thank you.
Hello friends, welcome to Akulmach Live. My name is Chandrakant. Today we will meet a very accomplished Indian. She joins us from UK. She is also a beauty pageant and also a well-established doctor. But before we start our discussion, a word on our giveaway. Akulmach works with many SMEs and startups world over, helping them in not only building their sales and marketing teams, but also help them in improving their success rate. As you can see, we have summarized our years of knowledge into these easy to follow steps, which can be used by any smart leader to promote their group or a company. In order to encourage people to take the right step at the right time, we have used this proprietary graph in our corporate memorabilia so that the knowledge can be accessed by whoever, whenever, wherever it is needed. You can become eligible to get one of these beautiful gifts delivered to your doorstep for free. All you need to do is to subscribe our channel and smash that like button. Also, please watch this entire video and provide your valuable comments, suggestions, or you could also share your experiences. Person with the best comment and interaction would be chosen to become a free recipient of one of these displayed items here. In addition, I would invite you to Akulmach Live to participate in our show as a distinguished panelist. What are you waiting for, friends? Go for it. Now, let's get back to our discussion. Friends, let me introduce you to today's guest. Her name is Neha Sharma. She joins us from London. She is a doctor by profession. And today we will learn about her journey as a doctor from India to UK. Welcome to the show, Neha.
Pleasure is absolutely mine, CK. Thank you.
Well, it has been a pleasure of us also to be able to speak to you. And shall I say, Dr. Neha, tell us about you. You know, how your journey has been so far, and you're working for the UK government. How do you like working for UK government? And you have also worked in India. What is the difference? I think we'd like to know. There are so many questions. We'd like to know answers to those today.
Sure. Thank you, CK. It was a pretty interesting roller coaster ride, I would say, like any other medic which I had so far. But I can only say, when you say about India and UK, I can only say that I have a massive regards for both the system, and I've been trained from India, and I carry that legacy with me. And when I'm working in NHS, I never forget my root as well, that I'm from India, and I've been so far, I have worked so hard in my life, and everything, like if I feel confident, if I feel like aware about my field, then it's because I've been very robustly trained from India. So I carry that thing in my mind. I've never forgotten that, despite working for NHS. Yes, working in NHS itself is a pride for me that I got this opportunity, and I came to UK in December 2016, and now I'm finishing 4.5 years now. And since last 1.5 years, like I'm working as a consultant here. So I have really worked hard, but at the same time, NHS is one of the renowned health system in the world, and it is very well organized. And the things which is something which impressed me is a balance of work and personal life. And I think this is something which has actually led me to settle down in UK. Although this was never been a plan, but I don't know what happens in future if I get back to India. But yes, the journey was always very interesting, and I've been like, as you know, that it's so like appearing in the medical exams and getting a seat itself is a massive struggle in India when you're competing with millions and millions of students at the same time. And obviously, being from a general category, it was always a struggle to being a topmost to get whatever subjects I want. So it was a roller coaster ride, but so far I've been enjoying a lot. I've learned a lot, and I've been reflecting that on my practice now.
Well, Neha, a lot of people know you. And for those who don't know you, let me tell the people, the viewers, that Neha Sharma is also a beauty pageant. She is a perfect mix of beauty and brain. Why don't you tell us about how the beauty pageant happened in your life?
I think, CK, that was just out of the way. It just came up, and I just thought, like, if you see the fashion industry, I think there's not even a single girl in the world who's not being fascinated by the fashion industry. And I think that was the main reason, like, I wanted to experience that, although I was not very sure whether I'm eligible, I'm not eligible, or what is there. And it just happened because I just want to do something side by side apart from my profession, which gives me a kind of broader platform to serve the community. And actually, that was the main intention why I entered. It was not with an intention to win any title or to go ahead or to go for international or universe or whatever it was, but it was with an intention that I wanted to do something for the community. But to do that, I wanted to have a wider platform where I'm being connected with various other women in the platform, and I know their like strength and weaknesses, which I can learn from them. So I think that was the main reason why I entered. But so far the journey is endless. I won Mrs. India UK 2019 second runners up, Goodwill gold title, and intellectual silver title. And I think intellectual was just because I was a medic. I thought probably I was the most privileged out of all the contestants. So that was really nice, and I felt that after that, like a lot of things changed in my life as well. The way I carry myself, although I was always focused being a medic and doctor, I think the most important thing which I've always focused is on my personality, the way I carry myself, my communication skill, and how I treat others. But I think when you go to different industries, like I'm saying, different fields, and when you get different exposure, I think you learn a lot of things from that, and you actually build up your personality in various aspects of your life. So I think that is something which happened. But recently, I was working for an NGO, like I'm still working for an NGO, which is called All Women Rock, which is based at California. And Carl Wilson is a founder of that. And I was very privileged when I got connected with him. He recognized my work, which I was doing anyway as a medic as well. And recently, I won the title of Miss All Women Rock Global Elite 2021 and 22. And I received my tiara, my beautiful crown, and even my Purple Heart Award, which was just as a Corona warrior, being a frontline worker and serving the community. So I think I'm very, like, I'm enjoying my journey, and I'm enjoying these various exposure. At the same time, I feel like there's a lot of work which we can do as an individual for the community. It's just not about keeping your knowledge, keeping your wisdom, or keeping your experience to yourself. It's all about giving to others. And I think I'm on a mission to pass on this to my next generation. And I'm helping a lot of immigrant doctors here in UK for Royal College of Pediatric and Child Health. I'm also their overseas trainee ambassador, and I am involved with them in helping all the immigrant doctors who are coming to UK. So I think I'm just learning from that, and I'm just helping other people in the same way where when I was coming to UK, people helped me in the same way. This is my mission to help others as well.
It is always amazing to talk to a personality like yourself, because you have been recognized, you have been working to help the people, you have been working with the patient, you have been awarded Purple Heart for serving the community. I think it's amazing. I think you are a all-rounder, as we say between UK and India. You have been
You're
an
modest. You're
all-round.
too modest, CK. I would say you're too modest. Thank you.
Well, having said that, you have done so much at such a young age, and you have been recognized world over at such a young age. Tell us something which you really like doing. One incident which really something which drove you and you wanted to achieve that. Is there something like that in your in your heart which you can claim that it is yours and you wanted to achieve it?
CK, I feel that as a human being, I think we all are greedy in one way or other way, and our expectations and our greediness in life never ends. And I would narrate one incident when I was doing my pediatric intensive care fellowship from India in Pune. There was an incident where I was a doctor on call, and there was a girl like 13-year-old who got admitted with seizures, with fits. And I was the person, and I was new. That was my first day in the hospital itself, and everything was new to me. And I have never managed a case like that by myself. And despite doing everything, that girl died. And although it was a difficult case, she already came in a very refractory seizure where her seizures were not responding to any medication, but she died. And that was something which impacted me very, very badly, CK. There was a time when I was like, as a human being, I was feeling, and I was feeling guilty for a very, very long period of time. And I couldn't recover from that feeling that I couldn't help that family, because I feel like losing a newborn sometime, like I'm not saying that every loss is very, very traumatizing experience for the parents, for the individuals. But losing a 13-year-old child is a big thing for a family, because there is a bonding, there is a memory, there's a lot of experience, there's a lot of sharing throughout those 13 years of life, which parents and the kid or the other siblings, they have shared among themselves. And when that happened, it just changed my life. And I was more embracing my life. I started being more thankful for everything God has given me. Yes, there were a lot of things happened in my personal life as well. And a lot of things were going around. My dad got cancer. And there were a lot of things, like I don't want to say on the social media, but yes, I was in love with somebody, and then it didn't work well. And everything was going all over the place, and I had no control over the life. And I was also there, like when my dad was getting operated for his cancer prostate. The surgeon called me in the theater at the Leela. There was a hospital in Kokilaben Dhirubhai Ambani Hospital in Mumbai, and he was getting operated there. And I was being called in the theater to see the surgery, and I was just shaking. I couldn't see my father being on the ventilator and going through all these things. So I think that just changed my perspective. And the question which you asked me, that what I aspire, like what I want my future, or maybe what I want in my life, I think, CK, I just want to be happy, and I just want to embrace every little second which God has given to me, with my friends, with my family, with my husband, with everyone around. And I just want to embrace this current moment when I'm sitting and talking to you and sharing my pride with you, that yes, I've been through a lot, but I'm standing here in front of you with a vision that yes, my life is good, and my life will be much better in foreseeable future. And this is what I want in my life.
Well, I think you have shown us the human side of doctor, because normally we don't get to see that. especially when you mentioned about that case, the patient died. Uh, I think most of the doctors are sort of used to that phenomena, and patients don't see this side, what you're showing us today. So I think it's a learning for all of us that doctors are also human. They are also affected by
It's very
emotion.
difficult. It's very, very difficult. And somewhere like I'm a kind of person who doesn't think from brain. I think from my heart. And sometimes it is too heavy on me as well when I am seeing that I can't do anything for my little baby. Like I'm a neonatologist here. And I know there are a lot of things which happens. There are a lot of complications which can go here and there. And even if everything is going right throughout the pregnancy, there could be something which can happen during the delivery process or after the delivery as well. So it is hard for every medic, and I only request to the people, like whoever is listening to me, that it's not easy to be a doctor. And I know that in last few years I have seen that chemistry between doctor and the patient in India and in a lot of part of world, I'm not saying just in India, but in many part of the world, it's being somewhere offset. And I think it has to get back to a same, like it has to get aligned, because I know there is an expectation from a patient side, and also there's an expectation from the doctor side as well, to be treated as a human being, as another human being. And I'm saying that just because even during this COVID outbreak, a lot of my colleagues, a lot of doctors, a lot of nurses, they've been died treating the patient. And it's not easy, and it's not fair for their family to be in a situation where they couldn't do anything now because the loss has happened. But I think this is the time when people should acknowledge that we all are human beings and we are working round the clock. And I'm saying that, CK, like in last 1.5 years, like I've been working without taking much of offs. Like, yes, I do got like in between some annual leave, but I'm non-stop working. And I'm like literally at a stage where I feel that I need a break. I really need a break. But I know at the same time that my colleague in the hospital, they need me as well. And it's a very difficult situation. And I got COVID as well in last year in March, where my family was like quite concerned. My husband was concerned. I was off sick for 3 weeks, and it was very difficult situation for me. I was just having a constant headache. I was sleeping for 16, 17 hours. I was having a chest pain. But at the end of the day, when you are being acknowledged and somebody just say thank you to you for saving the life of their child, or just a simple that, Dr. Sharma, you have done everything for my child, I think that is the reward which just makes me feel about that. Yes, probably I've done justice to my presence in their life. And whenever I see the patient in the clinic as well, like in the children's outpatient department, and when I'm discharging them from my side, I always say to them that thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to look after your child. And I feel being privileged to be a part of this journey. And the kind of gratitude which I see at that point of time, as soon as I say thank you to them for letting me to treat their child, and the kind of satisfaction which is there on their face, it's completely like I can't express this in my words. Like it's completely undefinable, and it just gives me a lot of pride. So I think it has to be acknowledged, but at the same time, we all are human beings and we have to get it better.
Certainly, Dr. Neha. In fact, doctors are also humans first. I think they are humans first, and we have to understand that as patient and also as as a human being ourselves. So, moving on to the next question, and that is about the journey from India to UK. Uh, and you could be inspiration to millions of doctors who are aspiring to build a career in India or in UK or elsewhere. What is your 2 cents advice to your fellow industry colleagues?
I think the two advice which I'll say is having a vision for yourself and knowing yourself, like where do you want to see down the line in 5 years or 10 years of time. That is one thing. And secondly, being resilient and being in a good books of your mentors. That's very important, because when you're coming to UK, first of all, you need to know what do you want to do. Like people wanted to go to abroad, like basically, but why you are going there, like what you want. I've seen a lot of immigrant doctors coming with something, doing something else and landing nowhere. And I think that's something which is heartbreaking for them, because at the end they get disappointed. And again, CK, like grass is always green from the other side. When I was in India, England was like, oh, everything is fantastic, everything is green, and everything is gonna be great in my life and this and that. But when I came to UK, I was by myself. and it was such a lonely life, and it was such a depressive life I had, like literally. And I'm using depressive because I'm a very strong person. I don't impact my mental well-being to get affected by how I'm feeling. Sometimes I'm very harsh on myself. Sometimes I feel like I have to be kind to myself. But I think it's not easy. It's not easy by yourself, having no family around. And specifically when you are working as a full-timer doctor, and you're getting sick as well, there's no one around you to look after you. You have to manage your food. You still have to go to the grocery shop. You have to get your things done. You still have to work. You still have to manage yourself. You still have to get your medicines done. So, but the thing is, because when you have a vision and when you are determined, you will never quit from your path. And this is the drive which I had, that when I was thinking I can't stand this lonely life, I can't bear it. I think just because when I was determined, I think that gave me a different direction, and it kept on pushing me to the extent where I've reached today. And I'm very glad that I didn't quit. So I think, CK, having a vision was very important. And secondly, as I said, that being resilient and being in a good book of the mentors, because UK needs references. They need, like, none of the job will take you, none of the hospital will take you unless until you have got a good reference from your previous employees. So I was very blessed that I had a very strong mentors in my life, and I'm connected right now, even with my school teachers, even with my medical school teachers, my fellowship teachers, like from where I've done that, my postgraduate teachers, and right now in every unit where I've worked. And I'm on a WhatsApp group to everywhere. So even I ensure that every Christmas, New Year, Diwali, or whatever it is, I'm connected with my old mentors, because what I am today is just because of the direction and the wisdom given by my mentors. And I would like to quote a few of my mentors. One was Dr. P.D. Pote sir. So he was my postgraduate teacher. One was Dr. Dhaneria ma'am. She was a pediatric head of the department when I was in my medical school. One was Dr. Suryavanshi sir, Dr. Pradeep Suryavanshi sir. He's a head of the department at Bharati Medical College. And after that, Dr. Soni, who was the prime person who brought me to UK. And thereafter, my mentor list is too many. But here in UK, I'm very privileged. I have got a very strong mentorship, like Dr. Umesh Prabhu, Dr. Ramesh Mehta, who are head of British Association of Physicians of Indian origin. Also, they are the head of the GMCs, and like they are in a legal team as well in the GMC, and a lot of indemnity team as well. So I think I'm very, very privileged that I have a very strong mentorships, and because of them, I have always got a direction in my life. And whenever I felt like I feel that I'm lost in my world, I just give them a call and they just give me direction. So you need to have a good mentors, and you need to have a vision for yourself. And that is the two key things which I'll say that every immigrant doctor need to have that.
Fantastic to hear about that, because while I was listening to you, I was trying to relate it to other industries. I think networking is a more apt word. We need to network with our teachers, with our peers, with our friends, and also with mentors. So I think that's a very powerful message you have given. And we expect you to be back on the show, Neha, and we will talk about a lot of knowledge that you have, a lot of wisdom that you have accumulated at such young age. We hope we will catch you again very soon in the next episode of Dr. Speak. I'd like to say goodbye for today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Absolutely my pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Hello friends, this is Chandra from Akulmach Technologies. Welcome to Top Brass Skills Gap Discussion Forum. In this forum, we will be discussing the skills gap that we have today in India, and that may becoming a stumbling block to reaching the 5 trillion economy mark. And in this program, we call various leaders to discuss the prevailing issues. And today, I am honored to present to you Mr. Raj Neravati, who is the founder and CEO of a new age company called Hug Innovation. Raj and Hug Innovation are well known in the market among the people and also among the various business fraternity. So without further ado, let me present to you Mr. Raj Neravati. Hello friends, this is Chandrakant from Akulmach Technologies. Welcome to Top Brass. And in the CEO Roundtable, we have very distinguished guests today. And topic of our discussion would be around HR and specifically related to internship. So let me first welcome my first guest from Singapore, Ms. Farida Charania. She is the CEO of Career Zoom. Farida, welcome to Roundtable discussion today.
Thank you, CK.
And our second panelist today is Kanchan Verma. She is the CEO of Akulmach and she joins us from India. Welcome to our Top Brass Roundtable, Kanchan.
Thank you, CK.
Right. So after welcoming both our panelists, we will start our discussion. And I said the discussion is a journey of understanding the HR in the shadow of COVID-19, which has affected most of us. And today's topic is specifically related to the interns. So the question that I would like to ask the panelists is, since everybody is under lockdown and a lot of companies used to offer employment to freshers who are just coming out of management institutes or engineering colleges across the world, those internships seems to have disappeared. So let us understand about this aspect. What is the future of internship with all the companies? Farida, I would like to know your opinion on this particular subject.
Sure, thank you, CK. COVID has changed the world very, very quickly, very drastically, and not aligned to what people would like. But this is the reality today. And the thing is that, of course, it is a situation where, everything is changed. People cannot actually kind of go to offices. The capacity has to be at least till certain numbers to where the countries have opened up, etc. But I do see that internships are being offered, and these are basically virtual internships where people work from home. It is challenging because interns usually actually accept internships to get the experience of working in an office with different colleagues and just getting started or getting ready for the corporate world. So yes, it has changed, but that also means that the face of these internships being offered has changed from before, but they are still being offered and there are still work from home opportunities.
Kanchan, since you work with the education fraternity and the education fraternity, which are like institutes and universities, they roll out a lot of these freshers. And in your network, how do you see this panning out? Because now the organizations are not coming to colleges for recruitment of these freshers. In good old days, we used to see almost like a queue outside different offices around this time, which has not happened this year because of COVID. So what is your opinion on this future of interns?
Yes, very rightly you have put in that now there's no physical interaction from the companies to the students who are passing out. So internship is the essential part of development, because that ensure that the resume should not go in the trash, because at least something is there for student to tell the future employer that this is what this is experience we have. Then again, it is a real-time exposure to a student on the company, and it gives a experience. Let it be 3 months or 2 months. Sometimes they are 6 months also. So it is good. First of all, it gives an exposure to candidate. Then second is that due to COVID, things are not normal. But then everything is online. We are digitizing our lives. So I think it is a good option and good platform for young talent to be exposed.
But when we have one young intern on your state, Kanchan, who's eager to join the job, so he is actually complaining. I can hear some complaints.
Yes, yes, you are very true. So we are making, he's quite excited to join this meeting. So we are ensuring that he is calmed down.
Okay, fine. So Farida, now the situation is slightly different. Um, what do you see from your point of view in Singapore or in your marketplace where you see people applying for freshers role? How do you see this panning out?
Okay, so let me give a slightly longish answer to this. So I will set some context. In a country like Singapore, the government takes a lot of steps to make sure that internships and grad hirings continue. The face of these offers would be different, but they are still happening. And officially and unofficially, there are a lot of resources for people coming fresh out of college or looking for internships. So if you talk about Singapore, a lot of these internships are being offered virtually. And if you talk about other parts of the world which I am conversant with, like for instance, I'm very well conversant with the UK and European markets, and within my network, I do see these internships being offered. Like UK is, kind of going back to normal. Singapore is in phase 2, so almost back to normal, and with 25 to 30% capacity, maximum to up to 50% capacity, the offices are still coming back to work. But the thing that I see here is that internships which were offered slightly earlier and interns who are working from home, they are also developing another skill. This is basically, one is self-discipline, because when you work from home, it's very easy to get distracted. I always get distracted by things like my dog is barking, or the windowsill is dirty, or maybe I should take a snack. The bed is super inviting and I want to lie down and reply to my emails. And this is after 20 years of experience in corporate world. So for an intern who has not been used to this discipline, is something that they learn very quickly. It's a steep learning curve. Secondly, I also see the young interns that I've been dealing with, they adapt very quickly because one, they are technologically very savvy. But then, that doesn't mean that, they would not face issues. So something that I see sometimes, people don't set up their Zoom meetings in advance. So they don't know how, the voice is going to sound, how they are going to actually look on camera. Can they be seen completely or not? People do not understand that they have to wait for a cue to speak. So, people talk over each other. But these are skills that, over a period of time, in a couple of weeks, these interns are learning very, very quickly. So this is just opening up a completely new, training for these people, because they are getting exposure to remote working very early on in their life. So this is a difference that I see. If you are asking me a specific question, please ask, because I love this topic and I have seen so much in the last few days that I can go on speaking for a few hours.
Yes, I think the specific question that I have in my mind is, earlier we used to always have Saturdays and Sundays, especially the HR people interviewing the right mix of interns for their different teams. Now HR is operating from home. Companies, as you said, 30 to 50% are operating from home still. And the interns are obviously have to come into Zoom meeting or some sort of other meeting. So what kind of jobs these interns can be given first, so that they can be interviewed appropriately? And second is, what is the modus operandi now? Because interview on a Zoom or a video platform is fine, but how they, what they will deliver during the internship?
Sure. So I think HR, the role of human capital management or human resources has changed very, very quickly, and this pandemic has been responsible for it. So earlier, it used to be assessment, checking whether there is relevance, and then bringing on board someone and then assigning a project, because most companies would have a few projects which need to be done, and they would assign those projects to interns who come in. Now the face of these internships, I see it changing very, very drastically. So the thing is that because it is remote work, they have to be put in a project which they can actually add value to. So it's no longer, photocopy my papers, go and get my coffee. That doesn't work. it's a very specific thing that most interns are asked to do. Like for instance, if it's market mapping, they are told exactly what they need to do, and they are expected to execute it exactly the way they are trained to do it. The training is also very, very quick. It's mostly video calls, Zoom meetings, etc. And they are trained how to do it. So let's take an example. For instance, it's a new market entry for a company selling software. So the instruction to the intern is very clear that it's a market mapping exercise. I want to know how many companies within this particular sector operate in this particular geography. Once you've made a list of those companies, I want to know what are they using for this particular capability at this point in time, what software are they using, or are they not using anything. Find that out, and who are either the influencers or the decision makers for that particular capability for that particular company. So it's very clear, timelines are very clear, and I think with all of this, the working has become a lot more efficient. So efficiency is one more skill that the interns are learning as well. So this is one example of a project. Another project, so there are several projects, for instance, say in data science, where, a certain programming needs to be done just for a certain part of the software. Probably just creating a UI for a new product line within that particular software, etc. So very clear, specific instructions are given, and very clear results are expected. So I think that way this entire thing has become very, very efficient. What probably the people who are doing internships, the young people who are doing internships, are missing out is on interaction with other professionals. So that is what I see. But then there are other skills they are developing. So yeah, so that's what I see from my side.
Farida, you have raised a very pertinent point, and now we will shift our focus to to Kanchan, who works with a lot of universities across India. So clearly, from Farida's narration, we know that there are new skills required in order to fit into the new environment. One of the skills required is basically how do you get into a video conference. So, and second is how do you deliver when you're working from home, and what are the skills required to deliver that job. So Kanchan, my question to you would be, are the universities equipped enough to impart these skills to their students so that they can be successful in their internship role?
This is a quite a interesting questions, and I would like to tell you that currently, because this pandemic has changed so many things overnight. So currently, universities are not equipped to really go online because there are many issues. But when we are talking about internship, because internship is not only only getting a kind of experience online, but it also industry sensitive, because every industry cannot enjoy the platform of online internship. So that is a very, very crucial and critical aspect of for internship going online, and then the aspect of delivery come later, because first they have to learn basic how to be presentable, how to be good communication, how to be a good listener also. So all these traits in turn has to be should be equipped by universities first before they go online.
So I think from our discussion today, we clearly realize that there is a gap in the skill sets which are required. And I think we are talking mostly about the IT and IT ES services based company, but I think the industry is much, much bigger. So we have not discussed the state of affairs with regard to interns in those industries like manufacturing, healthcare, shipping, and so many other industries where people cannot really go and work from the office, and they cannot even work online. So I think there is a challenge and there is obviously a gap which we have identified. So Farida, I think last word to you.
you like to give some advice to the interns or education institutes or even companies to change their ways to identify the right mix of people for internships?
Well, I think, my advice cannot be generalized because, like you mentioned, there are, industries where the interns need to have hands-on experience. Like a culinary intern cannot work from home. They can't be serving food on online meetings. So, there are, of course, a lot of limitations. And I do hope that, it kind of starts clearing out soon. But till that time, there are jobs which can be done online, and the ones that we discussed. I think one of the things that anyone who's taking up these internships and delivering their projects online, they need to, like Kanchan said, they need to also be a very good listener because they will otherwise end up talking over each other. It's very important to self-discipline, though this young generation is very, very well conversant with technology, but there are a zillion things that could go wrong in an online meeting. So please always check, do a sound check, do a video check. Do not just start working in your pajamas because it's not good. Freshen up and work as you would work from the office. I've been in the business for 20 years, and even today, I do not actually start my work before I am dressed like I'm going to office because it just doesn't give you that feel. So don't take it easy because you are at home. You are still working, and treat it as a job that you're going to office and people are watching you, because trust me, that will make a lot of difference in the way you deliver your projects.
Well said, Farida. In fact, discipline is the key to success. And I think clearly from our discussion today, we realize that there are obviously a gap in the in education institutes, also in the learning and development industry itself. So I think there are gaps need to be identified. And also I feel that there is a concept of virtual office that needs to be adapted very rapidly to solve the growth aspect for the youngsters. So it was pleasure talking to both of you. Farida, it was wonderful talking to you, and Kanchan, it was our pleasure to have you on our panel today. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it was a quite interesting discussion we had. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Farida. And Kanchan, we will meet again on some other subject on the CEO Roundtable.
Look forward.
Bye-bye.
Bye for now.
Hello, welcome to Akulmach Live. I'm Kanchan Verma. And viewers, that nationalism and patriotism is very, very essential for the existence and for a well-being of any nation. Because when we're talking about nationalism, that means we feel proud about our heritage, our culture, our language. And when we are talking about patriotism, that means we love our people and we want all goodness to come to our people. And there's one very important aspect when we talk about freedom struggle. And there's one incident which is Anand Mat. And to discuss about this incident which initiated the independence thought process in the people of India way back in 18th century. And to discuss about this, we have a special guest, Ritu Gupta, who is CEO of a 4-season PR agency. A part of this, she has a great interest in Indian history. So before we start our discussion, let's welcome her.
I'm absolutely fine. Thank you, Kanchan.
Well, you know that you have a great interest in Indian culture and Indian history. And as we discussed that, how this independence started. What is that idea which initiated freedom struggle? And people say there's a small rebellion of sadhus, and this is initiated. So, what really you know about Anand Math rebellion and how you really take it?
Okay, Kanchan. So there is this Anand Math, which is a monastery where the sadhus they live, the monks, the Hindu monks they live. And it is said, Anand Math talks about the time when Britishers were ruling India, and there was unrest among the general public, among the sadhus also, and the other people also. So the sadhus, they were very nationalist. They wanted India to be a free country, and they were pure Hindus. They were the followers of Sanatan Dharma, the Hinduism. So the book Anand Math and the movie which is made, and it's a real incident, but you really do not find much written about it in any of the media, in any of the newspaper, because all these papers were destroyed. The evidences were destroyed way back that time by the Britishers. And later on, a book was written, and later on, a movie was also made, which was very successful. The Anand Math is about the rise of unrest among the monks. It is about everyone had this feeling of nationalism, but then this feeling of nationalism was asserted. It was told to them, please rise and stand for your nation. And this also gave the Anand Math, the monastery, is from where the actual fight for the freedom, the struggle for the freedom started. So also, the people, they would always look up to the monks, and the monks were telling people that please go out and fight for your rights. So this was about the rebellion. This place is very famous, known for the rebellion of the sadhus, the monks, the Hindu monks.
Well, as you have said that this is kind of a first rebellion which is done by the monks, the Hindu Pandit, Sanatan Dharma followers, and I think that gave a lot of impact on the general public, because a rise of Brahmin against Britishers, so that gives a weight for a freedom struggle. So now there was a novel which was written about this incident. So how really you feel that novel has created ripples in the thought process of Indians at that point of time?
See, the novel written in 1882 by Bankim Chatterjee speaks about everything what India was going through that time. Everything was connected, especially in Bengal. Everything is connected with this monastery, Anand. But there was a famine also. And the story talks about a couple, a poor couple, husband and wife, and their small child, and how they go through this whole journey, and how the monks, they help them out, and how the husband, Mahinder, he wants to get related with the uprise, the first struggle, the first fight for freedom, which was started in West Bengal. Also, Bankim Chatterjee wrote a small poetry, Vande Mataram, in this book, which was also taken in the movie also. And this poetry has a very strong impact. This poetry has a very strong impact, because till date, Vande Mataram, this song, the poetry, is being sung by the Indian Defense Forces, is being sung in the school prayers also. And when you sing, you have goosebumps. This poetry was written only to create awareness among the people for the nationalism, and also to let people know that how during that time when Britishers were ruling, how people they felt, and how a small poetry, how a small incident in West Bengal created ripples, and people, they came out and they all stood together, and they gave rise to the first fight of freedom struggle. So the book also talks about it. The book takes us back to the time in 1882, what India was going through, how normal people, they were tortured by the Britishers, what was the lifestyle, how poor became more poor, how people were going through famine, how people were not even able to get a bowl of rice. So this was the pathetic condition of India and the super rule of the Britishers.
Well, once upon a time, India was called as Soni ki Chidiya, but during this British rule, we lost many things, and of course, the livelihood also was lost. The artisans lost their job and everything. And you mentioned Vande Mataram, and definitely Vande Mataram has a greater impact because even today, our Prime Minister finishes his speech by saying Vande Mataram. So I would like to ask you what the young generation really get the teaching with this incident of Anand Math. What is the relevance in today's time?
Oh, it's very relevant. The teaching, the impact which it is leaving on the young generation is that you should always be honest, true to your country, stand by the country, do not support any anti-national forces, and do everything what goes in the favor of the country. See, a small set of monks, they could fight such large army of Britishers. So we people who are, I think, very updated, who are doing very well, and who are not, I mean, the country is not facing any kind of problems as far as no one is starving in the country right now. So let's all give back to the country. Let's all stand by the country and be honest citizen. Also, you know, I also understand one thing, that this novel is giving a teaching to the youngsters that at least do not be a cheater. Pay your taxes on time, because your taxes is something which goes for defense forces, and these defense forces, they protect us from the enemies. So let's all be let's all stand united. We should know what actually Vande Mataram poem is all about, and we should feel it and do the same thing for the country.
Well, definitely, because the Anand Math has a far-reaching effect, because that gives a thought process for Indians to come out and fight for their right. And I think we should know more about this incident, and we should be proud of how these monks who were not, I mean, when we talk about freedom, when we talk about people who are fighting for the right, I think monks have raised their voice. That means no section of the society should be away from naturalism, because that is what people should know and should practice. And when we talk about nationalism, that means love your country, love your people. So any last thought you would like to share with our audience?
I would really like the audience, whosoever is listening and watching this program, that they should encourage the youngsters to read this book, Anand Math. It's an absolutely wonderful piece of literature. People should read it, because it is very important that the young people, the kids, even people of my generation, they should know about the independence we are living right now, the importance of the independence, and how people, they fought for it, how the sadhus, the monks, even the poor people got connected with Anand Math, and then they wanted to fight for the country. So we all should read this beautiful piece of literature, and we should take some learning from Anand Math. It's a wonderful piece of writing.
Well, you said very right that freedom is not a cheap association with the nation, because it cost soldiers, it got people, and we got freedom after a lot of struggle. So I think we should value that. So with that thought, I would like to end this session. We'll be meeting again with another thought-provoking episode. Till then, bye-bye. You take care.
Bye-bye. Take care, Kanchan. Bye-bye.
Hello, friends. This is Chandrakant from Akulmach, and welcome to Legal Matters. Today, we would like to discuss something which happened in the 50s and 60s when the Indian government were taking over the private banks and making them public. And obviously, this was a matter of great discomfort among the private enterprises and business owners who actually owned the bank. And there were a lot of legal battles fought in 50s and 60s. Matter eventually reached the Supreme Court, and there were rulings around it. So, to discuss this particular matter, let me invite my friend from Ahmedabad, Mr. Jeet Bhatt.
Yeah, hello Chandrakant. Thank you for having me in this show, and I'm looking forward for discussing on this very important historical issue with regards to nationalization of the banks. And as today we have come a full circle, as today the government is planning to privatize these nationalized banks. So what happened, how it transpired, are interesting events of the history which I would like to discuss.
Absolutely, Jeet. In fact, you're the best person, and there were rulings also from the Supreme Court. Uh, so I think let's get into the discussion straight away. What happened? What was the reason behind government deciding to take over the private banks in 50s and 60s?
Yes, so basically, Pandit Nehru, the first prime minister of this country, believed that socialism was the best model that suited India after independence. And it wanted state to have control over the important industries, which was seen to as a means to achieve the objective of greatest good for the greatest number of people. And therefore, since 50s, 60s, we see several policies which nationalized important businesses like the transport undertakings, the electricity was made a state monopoly, the insurance sector was nationalized. And similarly, it was also thought that let the banking sector also be nationalized and let the central government run this entire business so that the benefits of banking system reach to the rural people, to the farmers, peasants who require loans and other facilities for the development of the country. So in 1955, the Imperial Bank of India was nationalized and taken over as the State Bank of India. So the present State Bank of India was originally a private bank under the imperial rule of the Commonwealth. And later in the year 1955, it was converted as a State Bank of India, which is today one of the largest banks in this country. The RBI was also set up in 1948, which had control over the entire economic system. And it also wanted to reduce private banks. And from 1951 to 1969, around 566 banks were reduced to 89 in 1969. So basically, the entire program of the government was to have state control over all business and private enterprises. So, with regards to nationalization of banks after Pandit Nehru, Indira Gandhi was at the helm of affairs, and she strongly believed that these banks, the private banks, should also be nationalized. But there were some objections from the old guard, as we know today, the Indira Gandhi and her close associates and the old guard. And